Right now, the heavyweights of artificial intelligence look invincible. Nvidia is one of the most valuable companies in history, and the frontier labs building these models are the most sought-after businesses on Earth. To support them, hyperscalers are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into physical computing infrastructure, betting that their massive lead will only continue to compound. But if we look back through the history of technology, that absolute, unassailable market dominance is exactly the moment we should start getting suspicious. Because every tech giant that ever fell looked exactly this untouchable right before they didn't. Unchecked dominance doesn't predict an eternal empire. Usually, it marks the exact point where the ground starts shifting. The historical record teaches us a deeply counterintuitive rule. Dominant tech companies almost never lose to a direct competitor playing the exact same game. Take IBM. In the 1970s, they owned the mainframe computing market so completely that they couldn't see the personal computer and client-server wave coming until it had nearly ripped the company apart. Or look at Nokia. They didn't lose their market share because someone built a phone with a slightly better physical keyboard. They lost because the touchscreen redefined what a phone actually was, rendering their dominance of the old definition entirely worthless. Decades ago, Clayton Christensen named this the innovator's dilemma. It is a structural trap where market leaders are entirely unable to embrace a new technological foundation because doing so requires them to destroy the very product that makes them rich. Giants die when the underlying platform shifts underneath them. That institutional inertia takes their greatest strength and turns it into the anchor that drowns them. We don't even have to reach back to the 1990s for proof, because it's playing out right now in AI's own backyard. For decades, Intel was the absolute center of computing. Their chips were the physical substrate everything else ran on, much like Nvidia's position today. Then they missed the mobile revolution. Even worse, they missed the GPU. Around 2005, Intel's leadership reportedly considered acquiring a young Nvidia for roughly $20 billion, but the board balked. Today, Intel holds barely 1% of the AI GPU market, while Nvidia built the remaining 99% into a fortune. Intel remains large and technically profitable on its older products, but what actually happens is a slow eviction from the future. The market writes you out of the story. In late 2024, the scorecard became official when Intel was removed from the Dow Jones Industrial Average and replaced pointedly by Nvidia. Intel's trajectory proves that surviving and conquering one technological era guarantees absolutely nothing when the fundamental hardware platform changes. Now turn that lens forward. The leading artificial intelligence labs and hardware incumbents are currently running the exact same play Intel ran, from the same position of overwhelming strength. They are opening themselves up to disruption from below. Right now, frontier labs frequently dismiss cheaper open-weight models, which have their base code available for anyone to modify, as mathematically inferior tools. But that is exactly how the bottom falls out. Eventually, those cheaper open models cross a threshold where they become good enough for standard enterprise adoption, making the expensive premium models unnecessary. And history shows us that distribution consistently beats invention. Being first to build the AI model isn't the same as being first to the customer. Fast-following companies can simply bundle a good enough AI into billions of software seats they already own. Currently, labs compete entirely on having the absolute smartest model, but model supremacy is very likely the mainframe of our era, a temporary axis of competition destined to shift. The real battle is already moving elsewhere. It's shifting toward AI agents that can execute multi-step tasks, local-first computing that runs directly on your hardware, and deep integration into everyday enterprise workflows. The lab with the smartest, most expensive model today is identical to Intel having the fastest CPU in 2010. They are winning a race right as the finish line is being moved. There is an honest case against this historical analogy. This animation shows the AI flywheel, a compounding loop where massive data increases compute scale, which in turn increases model quality. This specific dynamic could produce a winner-take-most scenario where the leader's advantage continuously widens. And even if the analogy holds, giants can survive. Under Satya Nadella, Microsoft walked away from its core identity as a Windows company to bet heavily on cloud computing, cannibalizing its own highly profitable operating system to build Azure. However, we remember that success precisely because it is incredibly rare. There is massive survivorship bias in tech history. Attempting that kind of bold, self-destructive reinvention cannibalizes many firms straight into oblivion. To truly survive a platform shift, a company must destroy its own core business model while it is still dominant and cash-rich. That is an act of corporate self-harm very few leadership boards will ever authorize. The artificial intelligence incumbents are not invincible. They are simply operating from the exact same position of temporary protective strength that doomed the titans of previous eras. When an underlying platform changes, the resulting relocation of economic value is not a threat. For agile builders and new founders, the fracturing of the old center is the entire opportunity. Incumbency is temporary, so stop measuring the scoreboard of today's leading models and start watching the platform shifting directly underneath them.